Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. It is club call time. This is your opportunity to give us a call.
Yeah.
The season is merely days away. Merely
Is
days.
it not hours?
Well, if you want, I mean,
How many hours is it?
How many hours is it?
Oh, did you get someone in your ear then?
It was me. I
right.
was in your ears. How many hours is it?
Don't know.
Till the season starts.
What day is it today? Wednesday?
Wednesday. Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 72 hours less 2.
Okay.
70 hours.
70 hours. There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
Tick-tock. We'll
And
be
Everton will
asleep
probably
for
still
most
be
of them.
playing at 5:10 on Saturday.
Well, that's true.
With these new bloody
45
rules.
minutes added time.
Ooh. So if you want to give us a call, the link is in at the top of Toffee TV Premier. Oh my God.
Ned looks like he's going to cream himself
does.
simply because he's got a new toy to play with.
He's got a new toy. No, what? He walked in and he was like, I brought in the new lens, and he was like, I give it to him. I was like, no, it's not yours. Why do you think everything's
Why
yours?
do you think it was addressed to Ped?
Hello?
No, I just said let me be the
He
first
said,
one to
I want to
fit
be the
it,
first
please.
one to put it on the camera.
I quite
Anyway.
clearly appreciate
Anyway.
it more.
That's this month's bonus then. We allowed you to put the lens on the body. You need to tell me what body you want now.
We'll sort it out.
Yeah.
How are we feeling, John? Saturday?
I feel personally that the first caller will be from the United States.
Yeah, probably will.
Because they always are.
And then everyone else moans
that they get on.
That they get on because they're the only people who ring up.
It's like ringing 606 and complaining you're always in the queue. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
How do I feel?
About Saturday?
I'm
About
always
new
optimistic, you
start
know
of the
that.
season?
I'm always optimistic.
No, but you can't be... I don't want you to be like, tell me you're
I'm not
optimistic.
blindly optimistic.
No, but then tell me how you're feeling. Why are you optimistic? That's...
My preview period hasn't kicked in yet, right? So my preview period generally, for me, kicks in when I set off for the match.
Yeah.
And the end of the preview period is when the team is announced. Prior to then, I won't worry. I'll be interested, is it tomorrow, the presser, or is it
I think
Friday?
it's tomorrow, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's tomorrow.
So if Sean's still on a downer, that Dan Juma and DCL... Ned,
Oh, sorry.
You hit.
get a grip, lad. Yeah.
Like literally playing another video in our ear.
Another show, yeah. If he downplays DCL and Dan Juma, I'm all right if he's neutral and he's not either way, but if he says they're not playing, then I'll get a bit fed up then. And thinking, how are we going to score goals, really? I ask you, actually, part of me thinks both of them will start.
Which part are you?
The emotional bit. The intellectual bit.
Not his right elbow.
The intellectual bit has to assume the manager doesn't tell lies.
Yeah.
He never qualified what he said the other day, but you never know. Let's wait and see, did he? He literally said, no, we won't.
Yeah.
So it'd be a surprise to many, I suppose, but I don't know why. I just think they might be pulling a bit of a fast one there.
Yeah, he always plays stuff down.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, in the same conversation he had, he said that there was nothing coming
Imminent.
in. Yeah. So he I'm not saying he makes things up, but he doesn't he doesn't always give the full truth. And he'll play cards close to his chest because that's his advantage, isn't it? That's his advantage as a manager. Don't tell the world what plays you've got available, especially if they have not played.
Maybe he's fed up with the leaks and he's just not going to tell anyone anything. Can't have a leak if you're the only person who knows.
Yeah. He'd have to do all the kits and everything there, wouldn't he? Hang them all up. Keep
Well,
them
I
all
think
really
the
quiet.
sporting leaks are the ones that are annoying. Yeah. You know, I mean.
Just because there was another week to go for training as
Yeah.
well.
Well, that's right, yeah.
I think, listen, I can imagine. I think either Dom or Dan Juma will start.
Yeah.
If not, both of them. Because I just can't see him going to the first game at home without someone down the middle that he wants.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think he wants Mopai as in, because Mopai just doesn't give him the options that those other two players
That's right.
give him.
You know, if you think about DCL, he did his 45 minutes, he scored a goal, and I think I said this the other day when we were talking. To me, it would have been, he could have just been neutral. Let the opposition think DCL's played the last pre-season friendly. He did 45 minutes, which makes sense because he's a bit late in pre-season. He scored, albeit it was a penalty, but the headlines are remembered, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they'd have to plan for him. And they might plan on even if he starts, he won't last.
Yeah.
He may maximum of an hour sort of thing. But if he thinks he's going to get any minutes out of DCL, say 45, it should be the first 45. No,
Do you think?
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't. I'd play him. I don't think a real 45. I think a pre-season 45 is not like a proper Premier League 45. But I'd always err on the side of bringing a player off the bench, because I just think as a game goes on and it starts opening up a little bit, I think that's where it can help players like Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Well, I'm sure it can, but I also think part of the game, particularly over the last couple of years for Everton, has been how much the fans can help drag players through. Yeah, and there isn't a blue out there unless they've already pre-positioned themselves for believing the manager, in the sense that he's definitely not going to start, aren't going to be disappointed when the team comes out.
No.
I'm particularly disappointed if neither Danjuma nor he start. Yeah. And then the only way you could make that worse would be neither of them are starting and Michael Keane starting, which is the Tarkovsky
No,
thing.
I agree with that.
So, and then there's a general downer, but just his name being called when the players are on the field would just lift the place.
That's emotion, though, isn't it?
It is.
And I think the manager's got to be above emotion.
I totally agree. It's emotion, but it's all motivation as well, which is not necessarily, totally emotional. And if the player is physically fit, if he's had no reaction to, last Saturday's game, and we've not heard there's been a behind closed doors, have we? Therefore, one assumes, unless it's happening right now, there isn't going to be one, because they're not going to do one sort of like 48 hours out. Then when is he ready? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's I understand what you're saying.
And your answer to when is he ready is give him half an hour.
No. What I was going to actually say is it's when he's ready is when he's completed that program, and it says at the end. No, like if you're doing like a marathon or something, and you stick to a training program. They're obviously going to be very, very careful with him, because they know they have to.
Do you want a clue?
Go on.
Right, he isn't starting because he hasn't completed the program. Yeah, but he has played in a pre-season friendly. Yeah, albeit for 45 minutes. There are no more pre-season friendlies unless they're happening now. So the program can't be completed if it was supposed to be game time. That's not Premier League.
No, but you also can't. That's where you'd have to say, well, you can't. You'd have to. The physios and everything, knowing the difference between a pre-season game and a Premier League game.
No, I know. I think we all know the difference, yeah.
Well, no, we don't, though. Not in terms of biometrics, we don't.
No, we don't. But we know that they're not as competitive, that you're not putting your body under as much stress and all that. I get all that, but they're finished now.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
He's going to play a Premier League one.
But that's what I'm saying. You've got to make the equivalent distinction, haven't you? So if 45 minutes in a pre-season game might be the equivalent of 25 minutes in a Premier League game.
No, I understand that as well.
So it'll be interesting.
Although I don't think the science is that clever.
I don't know, it's pretty clever now.
If nobody clattered into him in 45 minutes, of a pre-season friendly, and some big excitable lump of a centre half clatters him in the first 30 seconds, it doesn't really matter whether it was 30 seconds in minute 1 or 30 seconds in minute 77.
No, it doesn't, but
it's still going to have the same reaction.
You don't take that into consideration, do you? Being clattered into, that's just part of the game.
I just think my concern would be, rightly or wrongly, would be they still don't know what the problem is, in the sense of surety about what they're doing is putting it behind them. And therefore, the only benefit you get from not playing him is he doesn't get injured, but he's not playing either.
I think, though, there's got to be a distinction, isn't there, between him getting injured, like you just said, by being clattered, by whatever that, but making sure that he doesn't get injured by whatever
fatigue
they think, whatever. So,
we've not heard anything, right?
No.
So, and has he been on the training field?
Well, there's been no pictures of him this week, because there's been no pictures of him. So we'll know tomorrow, won't we? We'll know
shouting.
We'll know tomorrow.
Has he been training? Oh, there you go. So if he's been training, then the reaction, if he's had one, is pretty normal. Oh, Alex is waiting for us, so I'll shut up.
Yeah. No, go on, finish your point.
I was just going to say, I'm just being Asian provocateur and saying he needs to be on the Premier League pitch. And all we're going to debate, I suppose, is when, i.e. at the start or sometime. What happens if he just doesn't appear on the bench at all?
Then he's not ready, is he?
That's what I mean. But how do you get ready? It's crazy.
Well, I mean, that's the program, isn't it?
He wasn't ready for pre-season if he's not ready.
No.
Yeah, Alex.
It says Alex. Yeah, Ned. Thanks, Ned.
Bet your Alex is in North
Go
America.
on. Where's Alex? Alex, are you there?
Hello, guys. Can you hear me okay?
He's
Yes.
not.
Where are you, Alex?
I am in London.
1-0 to England. Where are the Americans? Come on.
So,
Well done, Alex. Yeah.
so I was walking to work today outside Liverpool Street, and I saw Farhad Mashiri.
Oh, did you doorstep him then?
Did you follow him?
You know, the only other time I ever saw anyone Everton-based in London was Carlo after we beat Watford 3-2.
Ah, brilliant.
And I was walking into work and I said, "Hey, Carlo," and he just gave me that wink that you see him do on the TV. I was like, "Yeah, that was that was amazing." Farhad, I wasn't too sure about today. I thought, geez, how do you approach someone like that when you've been so angry at how we've been run for the last few years? So I thought I'd give him some space.
All right.
But
I would suggest if you ever approach him, you approach him with a smile because his mind might misinterpret your intentions.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I ended up in a headlock. Or maybe that's a bad example.
No, that was perfect.
That was a perfect example.
Do you know what? The reason for the call was a couple of things. One was seeing him there today. It got me realising that, and the team we're about to try and put out with strength and pace. It's like we spent a lot of and wasted a lot of money to try and effectively recreate what we did under Moyes.
Yeah.
Lots of physical, hard-working, compact. A team that won't lose by a lot like we did under Martinez. And it's like, geez, we've almost spent 10 years trying to recreate a Moyes team.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think I remember feeling like, it would be great if we were a little bit more progressive, and how a lot of the teams back then were trying to play with Pep coming in. And there's a part of me now that thinks, do you know what? I kind of miss that honesty and that tenacious way that we used to play, where we were always in games. We didn't have to win 4 or 5-0. That season where we came fourth, how many 1-0s did we get that season?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel going into the season, maybe there are 3 terrible teams there, and we should kind of feel a bit more confident that we could do okay.
What I would say is, when you said going back 10 years, I wouldn't say going back 10 years. I think you were right when you said about when we got 4th place, going back actually 20 or 19,
that
20
was a
years.
negative goal.
Because I think Moyes' team actually did evolve, didn't it? It evolved from being a team that was solid and nicking 1-0s.
Sprinkled it with Arteta's.
Yeah. Tim Cahill headers, and then it grew. And it grew with the likes of Arteta, and it grew with the likes of Pienaar, and it grew into a team towards the end with Morales that did have something about it. And then obviously Martinez changed it again, and for that first season almost had the right balance of both parts of it. And then when we went over that line the next season and he started going full Martinez, that's when the downfall started to begin, when he tried to get us too much going the other way. So I think we're back to the origins of when Moyes first came in, and it just being a team that is trying to get away from the relegation zone. And all you can hope for is it gets those roots in place, and then it evolves in the same way, because that's the only way you can actually get up the table. There's no teams in the top half that are, teams that are, kick and rush and just get in people's faces. That you have to have that little bit of, you have to have good players, don't you? You have to be able to score goals.
Have some finesse,
yeah. You have to have a touch of finesse about you. So you're right. It's like, it's going back to the very start of what I imagine a lot of people out there will have witnessed.
But you also have to have the basics around discipline, about how setting up correctly and those sorts of things. And they're on the manager, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they become on the players when the players don't do what the manager says. Yeah. So the start of that, as you say, Alex, has been difficult to beat. And in many respects, our defensive, and it could have been a lot better last season, the defensive outcome, but it still would have had us mid-table if it was goals conceded decided what happened to you. And it's not actually, it's goals scored that decides what happens to you. So, which is why Wolves have got some problems. Yeah.
Go on,
Alex Iwobi.
Yeah.
Like I looked at players that have come into the end of their contracts, and like you've got Doucouré, he will be 31 when his contract comes up. But But Iwobi looks like that one where you look at it, you've got Gbamin, you've got Gomez, you've got those sort of players that are going to come to a natural end. But Iwobi's the one that stands out. And I'm like, I look at him and I saw him play on the left. He plays in the centre, he plays on the right, he can play right wing back. He looks like that player that's got a lot of versatility, but his numbers never really stack up much. And you think, well, how do you boys feel about the potential of him leaving in this window when he's only got a year left on his contract?
Well, I mean, Damari Gray still looks like he's going to leave the club, obviously, and that'll probably happen after this weekend if it's because obviously it's Fulham. So that you have to replace him, and we need someone already on the right hand side. So you've let Iwobi go as well. I mean, you're right. What you say is he's such a divisive character, isn't he? Because he just, people look at his numbers and go, oh, he does all this and does that, and then you go to the game and you go, I didn't actually see him do anything. Or he slows the game down when you are, in the flow. There's an opportunity to get someone up the pitch, and he cuts inside, and then he might make a nice pass to the left hand side, and it might be great for the stats, but he's just allowed the opposition team to get back. So he is. I imagine what'll happen is he'll stay at Everton, and then Everton will try maybe convince him during the season to sign a new contract, probably like a 3-year deal, and then it'll be whether he wants it or not. And that's
a really interesting observation, because I don't see that.
Okay, go on, John.
I just don't see it. I mean, I think the reason it's a good question, I think, is because and clearly, we've got viewers who are big Alex fans, really, and they tend to be the statistically orientated people who can see, created so many chances, had so many assists, those things, right? But if we step away from it and forget about the individual and determine what do we expect to get out of that type of player, and therefore what is their metric for a good season? It includes goals, and he doesn't score any. Okay, so when they sat down in their meeting room or wherever they did it and lay out the strategy for every single player for the remaining period of their contract, notwithstanding we are where we are on cash or FFP compliance or whatever it might be, at best for me, he would have been on, in the box that is not proven. In other words, he hasn't done enough to be assured of a new contract, but he does contribute in a way that means you don't want to just get him out the door as fast as you can, right? He's somewhere in between. If that's what you mean, Ped, that he has a better season, he adds goals to all the other stats which make him look good, then yes, perhaps he would earn a new contract. I actually think he thinks he's worthy of a lot more than we're likely to offer him. Clearly. And therefore, his plan perhaps is to leave on a free. Yeah? And if his plan is to leave on a free, and he can't leave on a free because no one wants him at the sort of money that he wants, then we just need to make sure if we do give him an extended contract, it's a 1 or 2+1 rather than a 3-year.
Oh, yeah.
Because the days of ending up with guys you can't get rid of surely are in the past. And sometimes you are going to make what seems like the right decision at the right time, and then something happens and it turns out not to be the case. So you do end up with a player you just can't move. But to me, I would just ask you, Alex, the question: if you found out tomorrow that we were getting in an appropriately skilled, forget experience for now, because I know the manager likes experience, but an appropriately skilled right-sided midfield player with a little bit of pace, and we'd sold Alex Iwobi, would you still sleep at night?
Do you know what? I think of it, I feel that this season's going to be an interesting one with the teams that got promoted, with Luton and Sheffield United, and I think you've also got another third team in there that could have a tough year. And so if we're solid, I think this is a year where you could gamble and say we could look at an Alex Iwobi. I remember the Peterborough chairman said on TalkSport, when a player gets into the last year of their contract, they're automatically on the transfer list. Because we can't allow players just to leave for nothing. And so I look at it and say, well, in this situation, I'd be saying he is actually on the transfer list. He's available for sale. And if we get to the window and he hasn't agreed, because I just feel I see some of these players that play for a contract. You'll see 3 months now between now and January where Alex Iwobi plays out of his skin. gets himself a new 3-year contract and just disappears again. And we've seen this so many times that I think, well, it should be like, here's a contract. It's a new 2-year deal with an option for a 3rd year. You're not going to get a 30% increase on your salary because you haven't earned a 30% increase on your salary in the previous 4 years you've been here, whatever it was.
Mm.
And you either sign it or we sell you to Crystal Palace or someone else or a Brentford. And that's just the name of the game. And we trust that although we haven't got depth in the squad, that we could get 15 million for you and we can reinvest that somewhere. And between James Garner and other players in the team, there's enough rotation there that we can survive.
I think
at least that way we don't do what we've always done, which is keeps getting us in trouble.
I think they're wise words, and they're the sort of words you would hear when people are talking with common sense without any pressure on them, right? And that might very well have been what our recruitment team were doing at the beginning of June, thinking, keep, sell, that sort of debate, which must happen, particularly, as you say, proximity to end of contract and proximity to certain ages. Remember Arsene Wenger, no one gets a contract more than a year of the 30, and I don't care who they are. Now, once you establish that, no one argues with you because they know what the rule is. But I'm Charlie Adams. I don't care. You're 32. You can have another year and I'll keep playing you because you're doing well. But we're not going to hawk the future. Yeah. And it's being bold then about being decisive in your decision making and then standing by those decisions because you made them for the right reason. Yeah. And you're right to say he's sort of on a transfer list because if someone comes along and offers money for him. But that's any player at any stage of their contract. If the value that the buying club put on your player is greater than your value, then you sell them. And if it's not, you don't. But of course, the malaise we've got ourselves into is lots of Everton fans, me included, might say, yeah, let him go. If we can get somebody, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there's always that fear, and this is where the people compromise themselves in decision making, that if you let him go, particularly if you'd let him go at the start of the window because that's what was the right thing to do, and then you don't replace him, you're a bit like the players who've already naturally left, be it Mina or whomever, and you think we're now making life difficult for ourselves. In other words, the easiest decision for ineffective administrators might very well be to let players run their contract down because then the decision is made by somebody else. And it's interesting.
But you've got to break the cycle, John, haven't you? Because
I'm with you, my friend.
Are doing. Brighton
absolutely
keep getting these players in. They've just announced someone else coming in. That'll be the natural replacement for Matoma in a year's time when he goes on. It kind of feels like this is the season where we just maybe it is too much of a risk considering how close we were to the drop. But if you look at the teams that went down, Leeds, Leicester, I think that the teams that have come up and replaced them are not as good. And I just look at it and think this is the season where we need to break the cycle and go, do you know what, Alex, if you're in a year of your contract, you either sign your contract or you're transfer listed. And if we get an offer that exceeds what you amortised on, we're going to end up taking it. And do you know what, if that means we have to be clever on the loan market and go squeaky bum time, or we need to take a punt on a couple of championship players that will get game time in the Prem and they might be unproven and they might frustrate the fans for a season while they bed in. That's we have to break the cycle because other teams are doing it. People talk about Brighton like they're Southampton were doing it years ago. There's other teams that we were doing it. How many players did we get in? Jolie and Lescott, Fellaini, players that we moved on. We were brilliant at it. And I just think we need to break the cycle. And players like Iwobi, you just need to say.
I wholeheartedly agree. And what you've just said is you've just talked about another football club doing something. You didn't name the player. I've no idea who you're talking about, but I can tell you right now that player is probably technically quite good, relatively young, and has some pace. Because
correct.
If you don't have them, they don't bring you on board. Yeah,
we're not.
Coming back to the original point. Sorry, just to,
go on, mate.
The other thing I've always been frustrated by is all these managers change we've had. You've got Martinez, then you've got Silva, then you've got Carlo, Benitez, Allardyce, and you're like, how can you ever create a team around such differing styles of football? You can't. There's no consistency over that, and all this stuff that came out with brands about players he wanted and managers he didn't want, etc. I kind of look at it and think, look, if this is the way we're going to play under Dyche and he's got the contract to do it, then if it's a 4-4-1-1 or it's a 4-3-3 or whatever it is we end up doing, that has to be the motion we move in for the longer term. And I kind of feel that's, whether we like it or not, that's kind of the identity of who we are as a team. Hard-working, compact, that we're never going to give anyone an easy game, whether it's at Goodison or a new ground. And at least that way, to your point, John, you can now say, do you know what? This is the dynamic of Idrissa Gueye. He's got a year left before his legs go. This is the dynamic of the player that's going to replace him. We're not going to go to 3 at the back. We're not going to go to 5 at the back. We're going to have an anchor player that's going to be that anchor player for the next 5 years. And so we can scout knowing the attributes that Idrissa Gueye is going to have and how we're going to replace that player to a degree like for like. And it has to be structured. And if that means we're not that as attractive on the eye anymore, and we're not trying to be as Hollywood as we were, so be it. But at least that means we can scout really like for like players that and plan for the future in a way that I don't think we've been able to do so consistently for 10 years maybe.
No, I think you're absolutely right. My thing with Iwobi is, I've never been his biggest fan, is the fact that, do we want another player walking out the door for nothing? That's the decision they've got to make, isn't it? That's all it is. Are you prepared to let someone walk out the door again? Maybe he'll be the last one. Maybe he's the last one of that whole bunch that will
generation almost.
That will walk out for nothing. And Everton are prepared to,
clear the deck,
clear it. And as you said, start afresh, like they look like they're doing with some like Schmidt coming in, going after Toure this summer as well, and going after those younger players that you can build up over a year. You're absolutely right. There has to be a crossover. There has to be a line in the sand where you say that we're starting again. And you're right. There's a lot of people touting us with going down, but when you look, I mean, I'd rather be us than Wolves. I know that.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd rather be us than Wolves. Luton and Sheffield United are going to be in for a very tough season. And no one knows what Burnley are going to be like. Nobody knows what they're going to be like.
Have you been looking at what the Nationals, because all the journalists do their predictions, don't they, rather? Yeah. And I've not seen all of them because not all of them are out yet, but the majority of them that I've seen so far, it's just whether 2 or 3 of the promoted teams go down. Because like you just said, they're not quite sure whether Burnley can roll into the Premier League and look as good as they did in the Championship. But the other 2, pretty much every journalist, professional, thinks the other 2 are going down. Yeah. You're right, my friend.
Alex, thanks for your call, mate.
Really good one.
Keep stalking Farhad.
Yeah, keep stalking Farhad.
Cheers, mate. See you later.
Get photographs next time.
I think he did. I think he sent us one before.
I sent it to you,
He sent us it before, yeah. Nice one, Alex. See you later.
Ned should have had it up on screen while Alex was here.
He'd get accused of following him round. Luton, of course, have just brought in Ross Barkley this afternoon.
Ross Barkley's Luton, they're called now.
Yeah. Fair play.
That's good for him, and I think it's good for them.
They're like that. Why'd you sign for Luton? Because they were the only ones. Because last week I was running around on the mystery in Wavertree. Yeah. So fair play.
Because I want to be a big fish in a small pond.
Fair play, son. Good opportunity.
Orange suits me.
Yeah, it does suit him.
He looks really fresh and fit on his reveal video, doesn't he? He really does. Good luck to him. Yeah. Not except against us. Yeah.
Well, in fact, no good luck to him. I hope he has a terrible season and Luton have a terrible season. No, just because I don't want
anyone to do anything
that's
not in a blue shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Shouldn't like anybody. You can give us a call as well if you're on Toffee TV Premier. The link's at the top. Just click on it. Get on. Give us a call like Alex did. He was fantastic.
I've got to know where John's from.
Have we got John? No, it's not John Blaine.
There's lots of us about,
I think it's John Blaine.
Hello?
I think it's John from St. Louis.
Hiya, John.
Is it John from St. Louis? Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, finally, an American. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah. We're good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Well, we regular weather update here. It cooled off. We got some nice rain. Got some English weather, so it's green and cool. And
what sort of temperature are you looking at?
It's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay, cool. Bit warmer than here then. Yeah, we're in.
Yeah, but compared to
mid-20s, aren't we? Yeah. Oh, indeed. Yeah.
That was last time. Yeah. So, apologize if this has already been discussed because I got in late and didn't get a chance to watch the Daily Extra this morning yet. But
it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Thoughts on with McNeil being out, a change in formation. So this is, I'm going to get yelled at for this, but we've talked about how Mope is not a lone striker. He's not a center forward. Is there a world in which we play him and Dom together and play Mope off him as a second striker? And then I'm thinking maybe move Ashley Young up a little further into more of a midfield role, go with Mikolenko, or I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking about a change in formation or tactics with McNeil being out, because he's a big part of I think, what Dyche wants to do. So thoughts on that?
I think that could happen, but what it would mean would be James Garner would play on the right of midfield, and you would have a very compact midfield, because I just don't think we can play with two in midfield. I just don't think we can do it. I think we've shown on multiple occasions how Decore doesn't really fit into a two as such. So I think if you've got James Garner on the right-hand side and we become a very compact midfield, Ashley Young might start at left midfield, but after watching Mikalenko last week, he didn't look anywhere near ready.
He doesn't.
The lad skipped inside him every time he had the ball. He let him come inside every time, and he nearly scored off one of them. So for me, it would have to be with James Garner, and Mopé would have to do a hell of a lot of work. If Dan Juma's fit, though, if Dan Juma can play on that left-hand side.
Well, that's the other option, right?
If Dom's fit and Dan can play up front. But it's all ifs, buts, and maybes till we find out tomorrow. But I don't think he'd be...
Do we think Dom isn't fit, though? Because, I mean, he obviously played...
I don't think it's fit. I think it's, like the manager said, it's being fit enough to play in the Premier League.
Call it match. Shall we call it match fit?
Well, he says
90 minutes.
Yeah,
90 minutes fitness.
He says fit.
Yeah,
but he should just say match fit.
Match fit. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's physically fit, John, but not necessarily ready to start a game. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen that and I was like, well, what did I miss? Because obviously he played. Yeah. So I don't know. It's really interesting because we've got. Well, what about?
But your basic question was playing Mopé off a proper number 9, and that's probably
which is his natural role, right?
Yeah, that would be him in his natural position, but he would still have to do what Ped says: work hard and look like he's actually going to close people down, just rather than getting 5 yards away and turning the afterburners off.
Well, and thinking about obviously, I don't think he's a long-term fit for us, but if he goes out and does fairly well, that might increase our asking price. We might be able to offload him to a European team for more.
Oh, well, the window's open. If he can look good and perhaps knock a goal in, that would help tremendously. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't turn into, hurrah, he's clicked now, let's keep him. No, we don't want that. So.
Yeah, so in response to the title of this, I don't know that I'm ready for the season yet. I mean, I am, but I agree with Pat. I think there's clearly at least 3 teams worse than us. And the 3 that you mentioned, Pat, I agree with. I mean, it was hilarious watching the Sheffield United fan on the overlap, and I wanted to just give him a hug. I mean, he looked pretty down. Luton, I think, is going to be interesting. I think Luton's going to be one of those teams. I think they're going to beat some teams they're not supposed to beat, but I just don't think they can. Although I do think Barkley is a good side.
Their fan base will go into the season properly, won't they? Expecting to be relegated, but we're going to enjoy it while we're here. Yeah.
Well, you don't want to play them first.
No,
right?
that's right.
So, like that Friday night game where Brentford took out Arsenal. It's like
that sort of thing. Yeah.
There's always some weird results in the first couple. But I was thinking about this too. Dyche is always, I think. Gosh, I don't know, Pat or Baz. Somebody mentioned this, or I heard it somewhere. I can't remember, but. Dyche has always tried to start fast, and then kind of, with Burnley, he would start fast and then kind of hang on.
That might have been me,
and so again, I mean, how much of that is within his control based on the squad?
And you mean through the season, don't you? Start the season fast. And,
yeah. He's always, some teams that know they're going to be good over the course of 38 games can afford to maybe drop points before the window closes and things like that.
City start slow traditionally, don't they?
Always, and then they come on. But I don't know. I always think my motto is that 3 points is 3 points. You don't get more points in April and May. The 3 points today counts just as much as they do late. And every 3 points we get early, it's 3 points we don't have to get at the end. So I really hope that, I know the crowds, I know we're going to be up for it and stuff like that. And Fulham, I think they're going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to be in danger of relegation, but I don't think they're going to start as well as they did last year. I hope. That's my hope anyway. So anyway, but yeah, I'm ready. I mean, I've missed it. I mean, weekends are kind of boring, without it. So we get back into, Everton, and then NFL starts, college football, for us Americans that are into that. So it's a good time of the year. So anyway,
before you go, John, because you probably don't see it, but one of the national journalists here in his predictions for who will get relegated, third bottom was Fulham. So
You know,
your observation
possible.
might not be a million miles off.
Well, there's a lot more uncertainty around Fulham this year than there was last year. I think they had that kind of feel good factor. It's always that second season syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's like you start off, you've got that, and especially if you're a promoted team and you can get off to a good start, that can carry you a long way. And then if you can get comfortably in the mid-table, I mean, Sheffield United did it their first year up, right? Wolves did it their first year. They came out and had really good. But Ped, you're spot on. I would not want to be Wolves right now.
No.
I would not want to be there. I mean, I think that they, between Wolves, Sheffield United, Luton,
maybe Burnley.
Maybe Burnley, because again, we always assume, oh, they did so great last year, but they're missing a lot of their loan players that they had last year. Mathew and the guys from City, and so they don't have the same team, and that's something I think we always kind of forget is like teams do change, and I think we have a tendency to be a little lazy and just kind of look at last year and then say, okay, well, that's going to be, similar to this season, and it never is.
Yeah.
It just never is. So, like I said last time I called in, I'm cautiously optimistic that we're gonna be fine and
stay that way, John. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I mean, in my more, less sane moments, I think there's a world in which Brentford and Brighton struggle with European football, and they drop back, and maybe we can get on a run, and it's like the old saying, momentum is a funny thing. It's what is the scientific principle? Motions at rest tend to stay at rest. Emotions or objects in motion tend to stay at rest, tend to stay in motion. Object, yeah, you know what I mean.
We'd have to ask Ned about that. He's our resident scientist.
Well, he is a scientist, right? So
and philosopher as well.
Yeah. But he doesn't.
I got a music tip for Ned. There's a group called Guided by Voices, which are amazing, and they have a song called "I Am a Scientist." So I think Ned needs to listen to that, learn it, and play it on his acoustic guitar. It's an amazing.
There
song.
you go.
So.
Ned,
all right, guys.
Thanks, John.
Cheers, John.
The
next Premier night. The next Premier night, you have to sing that song and dedicate it to John. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, go look at it first.
Depends how happy it is. If it's got a happy ratio of like +5, Ned won't sing it.
Because John finished off with talking about the bees who always get mentioned, no pun intended, of Brentford and Brighton, right? But they're getting into that space now where they're spending 40 and 50 million pound on players.
Well,
and the pressure is different then.
We just had a conversation in an earlier show saying, well, Brentford haven't got their best striker till January and are about to sell their goalkeeper.
Yeah.
No one's talking about that, are they?
No.
Just talking about fast starts.
Well, because people assume because they run the way they run that they'll have plans for both.
They're so chilled out as well. The Brentford manager's just so chilled out about everything.
Let's see what he's like if they're in the bottom three at Christmas.
Well, just some fast starts, just looking at Luton's fixtures.
Oh,
Brighton, first game away.
That's not easy, is it?
Second game away, Chelsea, because their home game's cancelled.
Of course, because they're not quite ready.
First home game, 1st of September, West Ham at home on a Friday night. So that's not any. And you talk about momentum, you talk about starting a season well, and you talk about all those things.
That's got played 3, lost 3, hasn't it? What's that?
That's work. You can do that in a minute. Took me about 10 minutes to find theirs. Never mind. No,
but you come through those and you're optimistic, aren't you? But you could be played 4, lost 4,
So that's not an easy start.
Forest were up and down all last season, weren't they?
I've said this a million times. The international break for the World Cup
saved them.
About half a dozen clubs.
Yeah.
I know half a dozen clubs couldn't have gone down, but you know what I mean. It gave everyone that little
reset.
Wolves got a new Villa. How much Villa profited from the World Cup break? Got a new
biggest
manager
beneficiary.
who ended up getting them in Europe. That it was unbelievable. It's something that won't happen again. Forest, without that World Cup break, I think Forest would have gone. I really do. So we'll see this season. We'll see. So if you want to give us a call, 2 excellent calls so far. Don't be scared by that. Don't be scared that the standard is so good so far. That what you've got to think about it is I can compete with them. I can compete. I want someone who's going to come on and give me more science.
What you do, just press a button.
Press a button, that's all you need. Press a button, have some headphones on in your phone or your iPad or your laptop. Just make sure you've got some headphones on so we can't hear everyone. I want someone to come on with some good science stuff to test Ned, because he is our resident scientist. He's not our resident documentary maker, but he is our resident scientist.
Physics, not chemistry though, I'm terrible.
Oh, okay, so it's just physics.
Atomic numbers, I'm terrible with.
Atomic numbers? I heard your boss with atomic kittens though.
invented the atomic bomb.
Ned Oppenheimer.
That's what they call it. The atomic.
There is a poll as well on YouTube. Only 192 votes, which is
what's this?
ridiculous.
I'll do it.
Would you offer Iwobi a new contract?
Oh,
What
that's
are you saying?
based on what
for?
I've just said. You know, the answer,
58% saying no so far. I want everyone to vote on this. I don't want 193
Toffee
people
TV.
when there's 650 watching. It's a button. Press it. The same with the like button. 110 likes. That's a disgrace. I'll be honest. You should all look at yourselves and
Where's
just
the poll?
look at yourselves and think,
That should be 600.
yeah, it should be 600 likes. Should be.
If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Fans are just...
On Twitter, the poll.
No, it's on the YouTube.
Oh, well, it'll all feedback if I do that, won't it?
No, it won't. It won't.
You
Just-
sure?
Yeah.
Don't
Okay.
play the sound.
Just don't play. I mean, Ned has used science there by saying just don't play the sound.
Yeah.
Um,
So where is it on the live show thing?
yeah, lots of people on the comments saying Ross to Luton. Wow. Question for you, John.
Yes, sir.
Would you have had Ross Barkley?
No.
No. Fair play. Done and done. Baz would have had Ross Barkley.
Have anyone? Anyone?
Anyone he'd have had.
Don't buy another pair of
Oh, he didn't put the sound down.
I had
We
it
said
turned
one
down.
thing.
It's an advert, isn't it?
One thing.
They override it with the
Okay.
adverts. Oh, here we go. Would you give him a contract?
Lou Riddle says,
I have voted.
if I was Everton, I'd be making a prime style doc this season for the last year in Goodison. I know kick or live streaming, but maybe it's something they could be involved with. Have
No.
you seen the trailer for the Manchester City documentary? No,
Man
Okay.
City.
Man City have made their own documentary.
Oh, have they?
So
No,
basically,
I've
what
not
Man
seen it.
City did was they got Amazon to come in.
Watched how did it?
Give Man City
10
X millions
10
or
million
what it
quid,
is.
yeah.
Watch them and then went, we can do that. They charge £2 a month for their own service,
Stream. Yeah.
thing we've talked about for years
Yeah,
and years
yeah,
that
yeah,
could
yeah.
easily be done. And they've created, and when you look at the trailer, it just looks immense. It looks immense. And
Have they got a big media team?
yeah, they might. I don't know if they've got 115 of them, but I do believe they will probably have the best of the best working for them. Documentary looks amazing. There's even bits in the documentary where like things aren't going right, and they've put them in there because it's a contrast. Because not everything is nice all the
So
time.
the thing about this, right, is you say they've done it themselves. You mean they've just done it without the streamer?
Yeah.
Because
But they could have brought people in. of
yeah,
course.
because Amazon don't do their shows, do they?
No.
They get directors
They
and
just host
film
it, yeah.
crews who are all probably
Well, everyone does.
pitched an idea and away
Production
they go.
companies do it.
I think you're right about the Everton thing, though. If Everton were cautious about doing a thing with an Amazon or a Netflix or whoever,
Yeah.
then do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
And I think they have produced lots of content, haven't they, around the stadium that no one's ever seen.
Yeah, but it's not to that standard.
But I think
though,
the
is it?
boldness in the City thing is they're dropping an episode every month or something, or every week, or
every week.
every
I
week.
imagine.
And is it this season?
It's from last season.
So it's last season. So they've got all the content and then they're dropping it, yeah? And if they've been bold enough to warts and all, that's what really gets people to buy
Of
in,
course
isn't
it does,
it? Yeah.
because it. Like, who's playing that music? Oh, sorry. Even though it turns out to be an amazing season, you've got to have the ups and downs, haven't you? You've got to have those moments. You've got
It's not real otherwise.
exactly. You
Yeah.
can't be scared. Imagine Everton's if there's no ups and downs. It'd just be like a beep all the way through. No, but you've got to have the highs and the lows, haven't you? Of whatever happens, you've got to show all the warts and all. Especially, and when people say, "Well, you can control the edit," you can control the edit
Up to a
yourself,
point.
but you control it to the point of like making sure. So the prime example of that would be from the Delhi situation.
Delhi and Marino, yeah.
Yeah, you've got to show
Both sides.
You've got to show both sides, but you've got to show both sides. You've got to have the manager having the meeting with them going, you're lazy, and then you've got to have them apologising. That's the real balance, I think, not just one side of it.
Absolutely.
But Everton could do that. Everton could bring someone in. People may approach Everton and ask them to do it, if only. John Blaine.
There's at least two groups, isn't there, right now that we're aware of who want to do stuff about Everton. And obviously they'll need to speak to Everton to make that happen. Depending on the perspective, but yeah,
Look at the Wrexham one. The Wrexham one. Because forget about the Man City one, by the way. I just mentioned that. The Wrexham one's the one everyone cares about. The Wrexham one, which comes back next month, is propelled that football club. Forget about Ryan Reynolds and, Rob McEnally. That's what I've just said. They are part of it.
New teeth.
Right. They are part of it, of course. They've allowed the story to unfold in a way that I was actually talking about this.
If me and you had bought Wrexham, do you think they'd have had the same reaction?
No.
So it is about them, isn't it?
No. But what I'm saying is, though, is they have give the show a platform that the show wouldn't just work if it was about them going. I was actually speaking to someone on Saturday about this.
Is this when you were in the press box?
Yeah. And what I was saying
You've
was...
not mentioned you were in the press box.
I haven't mentioned it.
Anyway.
What I was saying was the most important episode of that whole thing is the one where they show about the hooliganism. Because what that did was basically say, we've got a problem here. And actually, we've got a chance of fixing it by embarrassing all the hooligans that are here. And what we're going to say is, Wrexham as a football club does want to be a global brand. There's no room for you. And we're going to show... How easy would it have been for those two in their first couple of seasons to go, oh, don't mention the hooligans. Oh, no, that'll make our brand terrible. What they were saying is, we want our brand to last forever. Let's get rid of them now in the early days. And I also think that for a lot of people watching who understand football and have been watching football for years, certainly for me, I went... That's brilliant, that. Because they didn't Disney-fy it. They didn't make it all about Hollywood. They showed a lad who was a hooligan and actually they dealt with it. And they must have embarrassed the lad. I know his missus left him. I know that for a fact. But they embarrassed him. And I thought that was amazing. And that gives you that sense of these know what they're doing. Because they weren't in the documentary every 2 minutes, are they?
No.
They let the stories about the lad who owns the pub and the lad who had his kids.
And then they come along every now and again to remind you that we're here. Yeah.
But that's a brilliant way how to do it. And they did it from day one. They caught it all. They've made Paul Mullen a star around
Superstar,
the world.
yeah,
The lad from Litherland.
Yeah.
They've made him a star, superstar. You know, I've seen a thing this today, Men in Blazers. They've put a picture up and it's side by side with Messi. And it said, who'd have ever thought Paul Mullen would travel in first class and Messi would travel in economy? And it's stuff like that where you just go, that's amazing. That's you know, they went over there and they sold out and they played teams, and obviously Chelsea didn't play their best team and Man United played the second team, but they allowed fans, and when people are so interested in the story, they were live last night on Sky, but people are captured because they've been I always do it. I'll watch a documentary, and this is why I'm not watching the Newcastle one, because I root for them. You're watching it going, I want these to do well, so that's why I'm not watching the Newcastle one, is you want them to do well afterwards, whether it's... I love all sports documentaries. I've watched... The other night I watched the Mark Cavendish one and I watched the Stephen Curry one back to back.
Oh, I watched Cavendish last night.
And all you want for them is good things afterwards, even though there's moments where they're not necessarily nice.
Did you know the end of the Cavendish one? I mean, what would happen with his, if you call it striving to get level with Eddie Merckx?
I knew he got level with Eddie Merckx, but there's other stuff I didn't know. The dark stuff I had no idea about.
No one does, do they?
No, I didn't know it got that dark. The Stephen Curry one I watched, and I didn't know about the college he played for, and how far it got in March Madness. I had no. So it's all a surprise. It's all a shock to you. You know, me and Baz have watched. We watched the one on. Who was it on? The one we watched in Holland. What? Feyenoord. And you're suddenly rooting for them, and you're like, wonder how they're getting on now. And Everton, I've got the story of stories.
We are a content-rich zone.
Mate, we are never short
the
of content.
Number of worldwide Everton fans would probably bloody double on the back of a well-produced behind-the-scenes thing. And just being bold enough to do it. Yeah.
Well, us just a challenge. When I was doing something the other week in the Overlap Studios, and Baz was there this week, it's like you're talking to the fans and like, struggling. And we're like, we do 3 live shows a day. We never struggle for Everton. There's always something to talk about. So Everton should 100% do that, 100%. And it'd be, I don't know whether it'll be this season, but even imagine next season and we move into the stadium halfway through and you've got that crossover and you've got all the emotions of leaving Goodison and then all the emotions
that alone is a story.
Of course it is, yeah.
Just the moving from Goodison, the leaving of Goodison, you can hear the song now, that's what grieves me. Yeah, absolutely. So there's probably room for multiple behind-the-scenes things.
Yeah.
The very typical ones that you're talking about like the City one and stuff like that, which is fundamentally about the sporting side and following managers and coaches and what have you. And then there's probably a much better and more interesting one, which is about following fans, isn't it? And then it's because the event of moving from Goodison Park to the Everton Stadium, whether it has a name then or not, the real emotion around that is amongst us lot, isn't it? Fans. It really is.
And of course,
so
when you're watching the stuff, a lot of it is 12 months later. It is after that player's left or you've said that thing, but it's all calmed down. So we're watching it in real time going, oh my God, he said that. You know, there's a thing, I think, in the Newcastle one where they're somehow using a quote, I think, from Ten Hag and using it as inspiration. But that was last year, and it'll all be forgotten about now. But in terms of watching a documentary,
so is that Newcastle one out? Is it
Amazon? I think next year. I'm not.
It's out, is it? No, I saw the trailer, and it looked staged to me.
I'm not
in the cab talking about Gordon and you know, let us play who blinks first or whatever it was. Let us, you know.
I might watch the Burnley one, but I'm not watching that one. We've got Brian on the line. Hello, Brian.
Evening, people.
Oh, it's Swedish Brian on the line. Yes.
Yeah. 2-1 to Europe.
Are we is it the Ryder Cup now? Is that what we're playing? We're playing the Ryder Cup.
The Americans need to get their
Go on, Brian.
Yeah. Hi, Brian.
Well, excuse me.
Are you ready, Brian?
A cup of tea. I've just made a cup of tea.
We're only live. We're only live around the world, Brian. But you have your cup of tea. Go on, mate.
Well, priorities now. Well, you have to feel good. You have to be right.
Go on.
Like a football team, you know, you have to be right on the day. So here we are, transfer window. Scraping the bottom of the barrel, looking for all the freebies, and it's just basically a case. It mirrors how the club's been run for the last few years. So my question is, it's a difficult one because it's still speculation with the supposed incoming money investments into the club. How long will it take to get a new board up and running? Because the only reason we're going to survive the Premier League this season, not because we're good enough, it's just because there have been maybe 4 teams who are worse than us, and that is the only reason. Normally we'd be out, there'd be no question about it with this squad, but I do think we might just scrape it again because we are unable to react to the transfer window, quite simply.
That's definitely a John Blaine question. Go on, John.
Well, we've got a new board already.
Yeah.
Which has been up and running for a while. Yeah. You know, this is the one with Spellman on it and Mashiri on it and Colin Chong and James. Yeah. And obviously the continuity man in Mr. Ken Wright. Yeah. I guess you mean, Brian, you know, MSP's nominees joining the board.
Exactly, because the board is just a temporary board we have at the moment.
Temporary is a funny word. It's an interim board. Yeah,
it is. Well, I was laughing.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about the use of the word interim is that, you know, interim between here and there, right? And so the question then becomes, how many of the board will change? Now, if you look at the people who've been put in place from a day-to-day perspective, then fundamentally you've got the chief exec and the finance guy. They are definitely temporary. They have to be, because neither of them have got the background to sustain the roles that they're in. Notwithstanding, if you stay in these roles long enough, maybe you grow into them. So you might say, and I think I've said on the channel before now, that if I'm MSP, then I want to have the main person on the board, and we'll come to that in a second, and I want the finance or the commercial guy. Well, there's no commercial guy on the board at the moment, so we just look at replacing like with like. Then MSP should be able to decide, in return for their small I investment, because it's a loan at the start, then they will have great influence over who the finance director is and great influence who the leader of the board is. And of course, what we all expect, because it's the right thing, is that the leader of the board will be the person who replaces Bill Kenwright. And Bill can go and have a well-earned retirement somewhere and just focus on watching football rather than being involved in it per se. And that can be done as soon as the deal's done, because if I'm Farhad Mashiri, I want to fundamentally interview people who are going to go onto the board of the business that I still control. And the claim, of course, from MSP during the sales process, if you want to call it that, must be that we can add value to your board by bringing better quality, more experienced people in these particular areas, and joining the company and being there all day, every day, i.e. executive board members who are actually going to be accountable for making things happen. And that's a matter of them concluding the agreement. And the agreement, I think, in broad terms, has been agreed for a while. So if you start to seek to second guess why it hasn't been announced yet, I'm guessing, I'll just say it that way, that it hasn't been announced yet because the negotiations are mostly done, but not completely, because Farhad is doing what Farhad should do from his perspective, seeking to control what the percentage of the business MSP get for a certain amount of money, or if the percentage is going to stay the same, get more money. And as we all know, that money is intended to be go against the stadium, and maybe he's thinking, I know how much I need for the stadium. The number I've got is already that, so any above that, hopefully, could be used in strengthening the squad, or indirectly strengthen the squad by reducing the size of debt that we will have on the stadium itself, because when the investment converts to equity, we expect the loan to go away, and therefore we'll be in a better place. But the answer to your question is as quickly as the two parties sign a piece of paper. You know, if they concluded the deal today, we'd expect an announcement whenever they think's the right time, and it wouldn't be a couple of days, or maybe it might be actually a couple of days before a game. Depends whether you think it's going to lift people or not. But you would hope that the nominees are standing ready, and that they are people who Farhad, as the controlling director, if you will, or owner, shareholder, whatever, has confidence, makes it better. And you would expect, or I would if I was they, I would add those two people to the board straight away, and then do some form of transition from those people who are perceived to be temporary, to use your words, which would obviously be Colin and or James. Does that make sense, Bri?
Naturally.
Oh, good. That pregnant pause was really good. Yeah. but I do think, by the way, Brian,
what I'm into basically is that this deal has been on the table for a long time now, and it's gone very quiet, as you'd expect before announcement. Things get finalised. You said ongoing negotiations. People already appointed in silence, like they've already picked your team, if you want to put it that way. But my question was a question of timescale, at how long it would take before it becomes effective, because although the basic plans on, for example, recruitment would have already been laid and followed through even towards the next window in January, once this window is closed, the plans ultimately start for the next one. And of course, the board then needs to be in place in order to be able to form the structure to see that everything can, the club can do what they wish to do after the manager's wishes. The other side of the business, like the getting all the sponsors and marketing and selling products and all that kind of stuff, that comes too. But the priority at the moment is, of course, getting the squad up to a decent standard, and being able to get away from this bargain basement and looking for freebies position which we're in now. So my question is basically a approximate time scale of how long it could possibly take.
Let me just throw something in here. So last week we saw there was a change to the business house. Does that mean anything? I think it was last Friday.
It was just tidying up the Articles of Association.
So what does that mean? Because a lot of people believe that
there's nothing in it other than some changes were made back in June.
Okay.
The Articles of Association of Stadium Development Company, and those changes were fundamentally allowing where we've used shareholdings in the Stadium Development Company as surety against, the debt, i.e. the loan.
Yeah.
That if you're transferring those shares, then usually, because it's been cascaded down from the football club, the board sign off on share transfers. Yeah. So you can't, even though you own the share, I own shares in Everton Football Club. Technically, if I sell them to you, the club has to approve that they've gone to you. And it was removing that, if you will, override that the board has, in the sense that if I'm MSP, or a financial institution, which is the examples it uses, and I want to transfer these shares to a different financial institution, for example, so that the surety goes that way, then I can, whether the board likes it or not. But that was about the stadium development company. Now you can go all speculative about what's the vehicle and the reasoning for that. But as we know that the investment from MSP, and sorry to blow your candle out, Brian, it's not about making the squad better. Yeah. Therefore, the answer to your question, maybe you'll bugger off, I don't know, I hope not, is that it will take a long time before the changing in the board results in, more freedom to strengthen the squad, because fundamentally the underpinning performance of the business just isn't good enough, okay, from a financial point of view. But the stadium development thing clearly moves towards a view that it'll be the stadium development company that fundamentally owns the stadium, right? And therefore the asset will be in there, and then the debt against the asset will also be in there, because that's helping getting it built in the first place. But the exciting part for me, having done a blog on this 6 or 7 years ago, is it probably also provides the opportunity to sell shares in said stadium development company to anyone who wants to buy them, like me, you, whoever, and generate income. As long as the football club keeps a controlling interest in the stadium development company, then we still own the stadium as a club. But that's what that was about, and there was nothing exciting in it at all. Okay. But it is, again, a soft indicator that things are progressing, which is what people want to hear. But Brian's question is really, and it's not really about getting the board up and running, it's about how long does it take them to make a difference that results in us having more freedom to invest in the squad? And the answer is, mate, in footballing terms, a long time. Yeah? Like a year or more. And that's being very optimistic. Yeah? So it's not going to help us this year, unless, of course, they did do something like generate a huge sum of money from allowing investment in the stadium, diluting down the 100% shareholding the club have at the moment, and then using those funds to spend money. But that's not going to happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. So I think that the trick here is to get people on the board who have more appropriate experience and skills, and lever those over a period of time. So if you want to call us being, I think Alan Myers used the phrase, a period of austerity, didn't he? Yeah. And Alan's spot on. We're in austerity now, and we're likely to stay in it for quite a while, I would think. Otherwise, we run the risk of doing what we've done before, which is living beyond our means, and just getting back into all those FFP and cash flow challenges. And at the next major event, I think, which will indicate to us how much money the club may have to spend, is when they start telling us how much those season tickets at the Everton Stadium are going to be. Because that has been the promise for years, that we're all going to go to the next level because of the new stadium. Well, that next level can only be about money, and that money can only be about how much to get through the gates, and if they can get naming rights, that sort of thing. And, of course, the attraction of sponsors to being associated with another third new stadium in the city built by our football club. Yeah. So a long time, mate. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you for sorting my question out there, but putting it quite succinctly.
You're welcome. Has your tea gone cold?
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
It's still warm. Still warm. You got to know how to keep your tea warm in Sweden, haven't you?
That's why you should be sponsored.
It's actually in a blue and white mug with a certain motif on it, so it's fine.
It's not one of these then.
No. You need to get shares in that company. Me and you, John. Yeah. Nice one, Brian. Anything else to add?
All right, take care now.
Cheers, mate.
Pad,
go on.
Pad, did you get my message I sent last week?
I did. I think I hearted it to say I'd got it.
Okay.
Cheers, mate.
I just wonder if you had I'd like 2 minutes if you got before I go
you
on.
Just deal with your personal matters.
Okay, mate. Okay. Cheers, mate. All right. See you later. Ta-ra, mate.
Cheers,
nice
mate.
To speak to you.
Take care.
There you go.
So while we're waiting for the North American caller to equalise, where are you at MSP? Are you expecting MSP suddenly to wave a wand and everything's going to be wonderful?
No, John. No. You know me by now, mate. I don't.
Because, of course, the narrative has been allowed to project that when this deal's done, everything's going to be better.
The problem is, John, and this is, I do understand the football club can't talk about this. As far as MSP are concerned, they don't exist to Everton Football Club, do they?
That's right.
They just don't exist. You can't, It could.
And it's dialogue between them and Farhad.
It's like a football player signing a football player. You have to wait till Mr. I want to see Mr. MSP standing next to a tree with a scarf, wearing a shirt. You know, that's what Everton will be thinking, Monty. So, no, listen, I understand that. How I think sometimes we're very fortunate because we live with understanding maybe what's going on and what's not going on and when things are nonsense. But there's a lot of people out there that rely on information, and it's when we don't maybe have the information that we can give them or we try and explain it to them. It's hard, isn't it? You know, it's hard to get across what it is. It's hard to even explain what is actually happening. You know, MSP aren't coming in and buying Everton Football Club. MSP aren't even coming in and buying shares in Everton. No. They are leveraging the debt that could eventually turn into shares.
Or the agreement will allow for that. Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. So it's very complicated. All people want to hear is, here's a load of money. Can we go and buy some players with it?
No.
That ain't happening, is it?
That's not the intention, no.
No, what's going to happen is we are going to get some money and we are going to finish off our stadium. Now, because of that, that might take pressure off the football club and Farhad Moshiri, and therefore money might miraculously appear to buy players. Maybe. I can't say that's a definite.
Well, you can in some respects, because if what is expected to be a loan is converted into equity, that means that's a loan that doesn't have to be paid back.
Yeah.
We know that was initially, if you look at the Securities Commission in the States, it's about 130 million quid, isn't it? If all that goes against the stadium, that's 130 million pounds. That won't attract debt, interest payments when we're in the new stadium.
Yeah.
You know, and I think part of the reason it's dragging is because Farhad's a hard-nosed negotiator and he's trying to squeeze the pips. And if MSP are still round the table, that's good, because they're not fly-by-nights. They're playing the long game. And the long game is that this club is undervalued at the moment. And with better experience and expertise and decision-making at board level, it will become more valuable. And it will become more valuable because it generates more income, and it will generate more income because it wins more football matches. Hooray!
Let me ask you one question about that then. Right. Is this like the only chance he's got to put a value on those shares, in terms of, like, if he sells to MSP, if he puts a price and that price then becomes the cost of those 25% shares, does that have to become the value then? It's
one way of valuing the club, yeah. I mean, you know, the rumour, and it is just rumour, and I'm sure it might move around a little bit, but be give or take. If the rumour is that they are going to invest, we'll keep calling it invest, even though we know the vehicle's a loan first and stuff like that. But if they're investing 130 million quid, and if they're going to get a 25% shareholding in the football club, the football club right now is worth 520 million quid. Because apparently 25% of the shares have changed hands, or the equivalent thereof, for 130 million quid. Therefore, it's worth 520. By any objective measure of the football club's worth right now, it's substantially less than that. Substantially less than that. Now, when that happens in business terms, you're effectively getting into a position where MSP are paying for something that's intangible. Because when you look at all the numbers and make it up, it's worth, let's make it half just so people know it's just an illustration. Let's say all the objective numbers say it's worth 260. So why are you paying the equivalent to 520 then? Yeah. Because there's something intangible, and that's often called goodwill, right? You know that there's more value than you can measure. And in fact, we do that when we talk about footballers. You know, Opta do the objective stuff. Alex Iwobi has lots of assists and does this, that, and the other. And our eyes see something not quite the same. In business terms, that's goodwill, right? And the goodwill says it's worth more. And that comes about through a negotiation, just like it does with players. You know, a player we buy isn't worth 30 million quid. It's just that we paid 30 million quid for him. Yeah. And that's it. And that's what these guys are doing. They are buying into this football club because they think that the equivalent of 520, they'll make money on it. Yeah. And of course they will, because you run this goddamn football club properly and it must be worth over $1 billion. The way the market's going, and therefore they double their money, don't they?
There's a million things, isn't it? There's a million reasons why it could be better.
And that stadium is a game changer in that context alone. Because how can a business be worth 520 when it's got a stadium that costs 760?
Everton were very bullish last week, weren't they, when they came out and said, like, Richard Kenyon done a piece and he said, well, we're still
That's the first piece that's been out like forever, isn't it? That you could say, oh, this is
the first
quite
one
good,
since,
actually.
It's the first one since last December when we were told things were coming and they never came.
By the previous chief exec.
And other things came instead.
Yeah.
No, but they were quite bullish and they were saying, well, all the deals we do are the best of the rest. The kit deal, the sponsorship deal, the sleeve, everything's best of the rest. So, in other words, we're doing the best we can. And I appreciate that in a way. I mean, I understand that. But it's how, like you always say, it's how you do it, isn't it? I mean, there's no point in having a good kit deal if you can't buy the training gear in the shop. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
Well, it's interesting because one person's best of the rest is well done. The other person, and I'll put myself as that person, the best of the rest is, so that's your metric.
Yeah.
As long as we've got the 7th highest deal, we're happy.
Yeah.
The reality is, in any business, you have to look at not what did we achieve, what could we or should we have achieved, and perhaps more importantly, what did we need to achieve, and then why didn't we? Because I've no doubt that everyone who's been selling sponsorship for Everton since Farhad Mashiri walked through the door have had a bigger challenge than they did before. Because, of course, people, even when the lag in it hitting us on FFP and the like, and we've still got that commission to take place in October, people would go, but you're not well run, are you? No one knows what your policies or your strategies are. You keep changing your managers. How can we align with you? All those sorts of things. Yeah. So our commercial people have had a really hard time. If they still, despite all that, despite it all, we're the best of the rest, there's your opportunity.
Yeah.
There's your opportunity. Surely, if we were run better, surely if our brand was more consistent, surely we didn't have headlock gates, surely if the board were persistent and didn't get all walk out the door together, blah, 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 the value would be higher.
No one wants to see the name of their sponsor on the front of a shirt, on the back of the mail, saying something negative, do they?
No, absolutely not.
That all comes into, people forget stuff like that. Ned, stop putting stuff in the bin.
Is that what that noise
That's
was?
what that noise is.
All right.
Will be better.
But
it will, because it can't be worse.
No, it can't be worse. And obviously they'll be
it can be the same.
Some people, they put people in who understand saying how to get the most out of the stadiums. After visiting stadiums in America, after visiting stadiums,
I can tell you how to get more out of the stadium. Put all the ticket prices up.
Oh yeah.
No, of course.
But you got to give.
And that's why.
What I always feel like Everton are scared of doing. I always feel like Everton are scared of giving people choice. They're scared of giving people choice, whether it be going the game. It's whether they're scared of giving people choice in the club shop. They go, this is the gear we've got for you this year. Here it is. Buy it all. Don't worry about it. Instead of going, do you know what? We've got this set of gear over here, but we've also got this set of gear over here. Like, you watch some of the teams who are in the Champions League, they bring out like 4 or 5 different ranges of training gear during the year. Oh, this is to celebrate this thing, and this is to celebrate that year, or this is our Champions League.
Only we had a rich history that you could leave.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like, why not? There's stuff that
short-run stuff.
Everton fans that go, I'll buy that instead of buying that. I've already got this training gear. Well, I haven't, because it's not on sale. Unless you go to JD, nice one. But it is, there's opportunities. I think what was refreshing actually when me and Baz went to the Liver buildings, and you've done it as well, when they were like, we're unapologetic about all these different things we're offering, because it's a new stadium, and if we've got a seat that costs, what was the couch? How much was like the couch seat, the lazy boy?
Ridiculous, 50k is it something
for the season?
So whatever.
And maybe we'll offer that because someone will buy it, and they're all sold out, and that's the way you should feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got seats over there for you regular people. Like, if you get on a plane, you can go in first class if you want to. You can sit in economy. If you're going in economy, your legs are going to be cramped. Well, that's fine. That's where I'll sit there, because I'll use any extra money I've got when I get to my holiday and have a boss time. I don't have that luxury, but that's fine. I know how I'm getting there. You've got to give people choice. I think this club has been embarrassed at times to do that. Embarrassed to say, yeah, there is a
but from
thing.
Off camera over there, Baz rightly said, but people don't want that. When I talked about
the prices, yeah.
But going by your logic there, and this is where you do have a sensitivity around what are you about, whether you like the People's Club as a phrase or not, are you like that? And I think, whilst Bill Kenwright was the chair, he would always think about affordability and those sorts of things. And the consequences of that is we have less money to spend on players.
Yeah.
If you've got a dynamic or a confidence, as you say, I've brought people in who know how to squeeze every single penny out of a stadium, who say, trust me, if you make the cheapest season ticket £2,000, you will still sell them all. right? If you do this, 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 and this, then there's going to be lots and lots of proper Everton fans who can't afford to go anymore. And if you do that, but you start winning things, is it worthwhile? And the trick is, how can you do both? Okay. And the thing that will give you flexibility is a goddamn stadium that had a capacity.
Well, exactly.
So you're back to living with the decisions that have been made in the past.
You don't. Manchester City don't need, and Spurs don't need a tunnel club, but they have one.
Yeah.
And people pay for it, and they go because there's people out there who've got
it's part of the brand value as well.
Exactly.
Of being the top.
Well, it's
clubs.
a luxury, and quite like when me and Baz went. What I really enjoyed about that is the idea of, if you want to take one of these, if you want to go and corporate, you're not locked in for the season. We all like nice.
Oh, you are.
No, but you know what I mean.
You're locked in for 3 seasons.
What I mean is that there's somewhere you could just get like a one-off package, wasn't there? And different things, and it's like there's that idea that we all like nice. We might be able to all afford nice things all the time, but there's opportunities.
I think the thing that Everton have done, and I've been around as well on it, and it's really very impressive, and the people who pitch it do it really well. Yeah, is your example. I don't know whether they call it corporate, whatever they call it, but is if you're at Goodison Park, for example, and you're in the 1878, it's fundamentally saying the restaurant that you eat your meal in is actually what defines, and then you go and sit in the main stand. Yeah. What they're saying here is actually where you sit, in which stand, and which fancy seat you do or don't have, and there's a range of seats and all that sort of stuff. That defines your class, in quotes. Yeah. But actually, that particular one has got 5 restaurants attached to it. That one's got 3, that one's got what, and so on. And the freedom to move between the restaurants through the season, and not necessarily eat in the same place every home game. That's something you just can't do at Goodison, because they don't have that many, do they? But ultimately, you've got to make a big commitment, and the commitment is a season ticket for 3 years. Yeah. So if hospitality are committing for that, and I know lots of them are businesses, would you buy a 3 year season ticket? Are you planning on changing which club you support?
No, I think, yeah.
So, and I've said to people who are still there now, people like Richard and what have you, you offer me a 5-year season ticket, I'll sign now.
Yeah.
I ain't planning on going to support another team.
Yeah.
If you can then lever that for sure you've got 35 or whatever, 42,000 in the new stadium maybe, 42,000 season ticket holders who've all committed to remain season ticket holders for the next 3 years, you know what your cash flow is.
Yeah.
And as long as you have some boundaries about how much they can put the price up, so you don't pull people out and so on. And then if people want to pay in advance, if the season ticket's £1,000 and you can afford to hand over the $3,000 right now, you get a little bit of a discount, and they can spend that on play, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's all like what might be perceived either in football or indeed at Everton Football Club as commercial innovation, which is actually bog standard stuff for every other bloody industry in the world.
Yeah.
So do it. So MSP don't need some secret sauce.
No.
They just need the authority to do what everyone else does already. Yeah. There you go.
Good stuff. Chimiti, his medical apparently was today.
Unfortunately, there's no but there, is there?
Apparently he flew in 24 hours later than he was supposed to get here.
Okay.
So will it be done for Saturday? We don't know. He's got to be registered Friday, 12 o'clock.
Midday tomorrow. No, Thursday it must be.
No, it's Friday.
It's
the
the
day
Friday?
before.
Okay.
It's the day before. It's always the day before your game. So anyone who's
regardless
playing
of the fact that the league starts on
Friday,
Friday.
but they've got to be registered by tomorrow if they're
That's the
playing
one I
in
was
that
probably
game.
thinking about.
But
everything else is done.
I believe so, yeah. Stephen Curry documentaries on Apple.
Yeah, that's right. Because when you were telling me which ones to watch, I'm thinking he's picking one from his streaming service. Watch the Cavendish one if you can. That's really good. The Air one's good, which is a drama. That's a drama with Matt Thingy. What's his name?
Matt Damon and
Matt Damon and Bateman and people like that.
Brilliant.
But that's quite a good drama.
Yeah, that's good. That because it's giving you the information as you go along, isn't it?
You know the 10 thingies from Nike that the culture of the business.
The 10 rules, yeah.
Yeah, the 10 rules. I was shocked because I've never seen them before.
Yeah.
Not shocked, negatively, positively, because some of the things I've lived and breathed by in my professional career, and I've buzzed to bit on the sofa, about doing the right thing and all that sort of stuff. They're in there, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they built this massive firm from just being bold, being decisive. And number 10, and everyone should resonate with this, particularly our football club, do the right thing and money will just come automatically.
Yeah.
That was number 10 of their 10 rules, and they probably still follow them.
Yeah.
Fab.
No, it's really, really good. Yeah, there is talk of a visa as well for Chamisi, which will be part of it. But I'm just saying, his medical was today. Whether it gets done by Friday, we'll have to wait and see. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's just life, isn't it? That's just the way it is. Let's have a look any more here.
I'm assuming we would know by now if he was likely to get one or not. A visa, I mean.
Well, visas are. I don't.
Work permits we're talking about, really.
Yeah, they're different now, aren't they? Because obviously he would have got one automatically because would have been because of the EU. Yeah. But they are quite lenient now because they know they have to be lenient. They have to be if they want footballers to come into this country without any hassle. They're not gonna. There's not like the stipulations it used to be if you obviously for non-EU players, which was you have to have so many games. He's from an EU country, so that'll make it quite easy. And I know in other countries now they're starting to relax the same for us. I know in Italy, if you're British, you get one. If you the same as if you were an EU player. They've decided what is the point? What is the point? It's sport. What's the point in starting to mess around with it?
True.
So there you go. Let me just have a look. A few more comments. Hudson Odoi, he's going to Fulham, isn't he? I believe.
Yeah, that was
he's going to Fulham. Yeah. Max Aarons, who we were linked with a couple of years ago, he's going to Bournemouth. His move to Leeds has been hijacked by them, so he's back in the Premier League.
The one who made the wrong decision, eh?
Well, he stayed, didn't he? He stayed at Norwich, so I don't think Everton were ever massive. I was never really that impressed by him, I must admit.
I never lost any sleep.
I was never really that impressed with him, so yeah. Just trying to see if there's anything else.
No more calls. You're at win 2-1.
We're finishing.
You're at win 2-1.
Yeah. So if you are over on Toffee TV Premier, we are doing we'll be putting the documentary out from last season. That'll be going up tonight. YouTube, the match preview press box with me and Joe Thomas will be available later on. What else? And the season preview, me and Baz's season preview. Okay. And there's a new show as well coming out, which is like fantasy football. If you're into your fantasy football, that'll be on Toffee TV Premier. It'll be on YouTube tomorrow. So that'll be helping you with your picks and why you should be picking Everton players.
Which ones to pick?
Yeah, which ones to pick. I mean,
because I don't have red shite players, do you? Oh, you don't do you? Yeah.
It's too much hassle.
Yeah.
There you go.
You can't win the league because if you don't have red shite players, but I don't care. Yeah.
Well, I can't be bothered keeping up with it. It's always very, very difficult to keep up with it. But some people love it. Some people absolutely love it.
It's like New Year's resolutions. We all do it at the beginning, and then the ones who win it are the ones who stick with it all through the season. I never do
New Year's resolutions. I just nonsense. Moving into one year to another never inspired me to do anything.
We should get a trophy though for the people who win our league. I'll sort that out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'll let Ned design it. Yeah.
I didn't win anything when I won Super Group.
Because you never really won it, Ned.
And that's hard. I
You
did
never
win it. I
really
won like
won
20
it.
points.
No, you never won it, Ned.
But it can't because I worked.
You never
it
won
on
it, Ned.
TV.
Yeah.
All the people in the room said you didn't win it.
No. Everyone
did
knows
win it,
you
though.
never won
Are
it.
you in the
Got it by
fantasy
20
league? Have you got a
points.
team for that?
Nah,
Well-
it's too easy for me.
Yeah.
It's
You pick a team, mate.
It's no fun.
Fight
Me,
words,
me
then.
against you.
It's not real competition.
It's not real
It's unfair
competition.
because of my
You're
manager
a
knowledge.
wuss. You're scared. Yeah.
No,
There
I'm
you
just
go.
You're a
Scared
wuss.
for everyone else.
You get to see.
Scared for everybody else.
You get to see the show before everybody else, and you still won't play the game.
Because it's too easy for me.
Well,
Yeah,
then
right.
put your money where your mouth is and play it. Then
You'll have the
I'll tell you what,
trophy.
I'm gonna make an executive decision. If you win it, you get a rise.
Wow.
That's unfair on you guys because I'll win it easy.
Go on then.
You should
But
just
you
give me
won't
the
get a
win.
rise.
Give me the rise now and save everyone the
If
heartache.
we did a poll,
You get a rise.
no one would be
you
with you,
get a
mate.
rise if you win it.
He's picked his phone up.
Go on.
Is that his way of just ignoring
That's
you?
it.
I'm
You
gonna
get a
join-
rise.
I'm going to join the league right now.
Oh,
Way
There you
well
go.
done, that
There you
man.
go.
How do I build it?
What's you got to win the fantasy football?
Yeah,
It's
do I build
it's
a
the
team?
Premier Fantasy
Yeah.
League you have to do.
yeah. You've got to win it. You've got to win it.
It is mad how easy it is for Ned.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
Everything's so easy for him.
You get a rise.
I'll just pick the best players.
If you don't win it, you get a deduction of your pay. There you go. Right, we'll be back tomorrow at what time are we doing tomorrow? Because he's doing his. Should we do the transfer show at 1?
What?
Because he's got his press conference.
Has he definitely got it?
Joe said it's tomorrow. Right, we'll be live tomorrow at 1. We'll see you later. Bye.